When I pulled into the cracked gravel driveway of my coastal cottage, the salt air should have filled me with relief. I'd been gone 3 months, trying to claw my way back from a divorce that drained me dry and left me renting a shoebox in Portland. But instead of peace, I found a woman in a blazer leaning against a shiny black SUV parked squarely in front of my porch. Clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, she radiated authority that didn't belong on my property. Mr. Carter, she called, her voice cool and professional. I'm Amanda Holt, representing the Seabreeze Homeowners Association. We need to discuss your violations. Violations? My cottage was 30 years old, weather-beaten but sturdy, a place my father left me. I'd come here because it was cheap, out of the way, and mine. Amanda walked forward, heels crunching on gravel. She handed me a glossy folder, thick with documents stamped with HOA letterhead. Inside were photos of my porch railing, my roof, even the old fishing shed out back. These conditions fall below Seabreeze standards, Amanda said. The accumulated fines total $3,150. If not resolved within 72 hours, foreclosure proceedings will begin. The number rattled in my chest. I barely had 300 in my checking account, let alone thousands. That's impossible, I said. I've never agreed to any HOA. My father built this place before this neighborhood even existed. Amanda's smile stayed fixed, but her eyes sharpened. Seabreeze HOA has jurisdiction over all properties within these boundaries. You'll find the legal paperwork enclosed. Noncompliance is not an option. When I asked how she even knew about my divorce and recent job loss, she flipped her tablet screen toward me. Credit reports, court documents, employment records, all laid out like a surgical chart. We conduct background checks on high-risk owners. Our duty is to preserve property values. My blood ran cold. She knew everything about me, things she had no right to know. You don't get to decide what happens to my home, I snapped. This is harassment. Her expression hardened. Company policy requires compliance. Failure to resolve violations escalates to Phase 2, county enforcement partnerships. You should take this seriously. I watched her stride back to her SUV, talking into her headset like she was receiving orders. A second vehicle idled across the street, windows tinted. For the first time, I wondered if I'd stumbled into something far bigger than neighborhood politics. The next morning, my neighbor knocked on my door. Ethan King had retired from the sheriff's office, and the grim look on his face told me he already knew. I showed him the folder Amanda left, and he skimmed through it with a practiced frown. Carter, this isn't just some crank with a clipboard, Ethan said. Seabreeze HOA is run like a corporation. They target folks who've hit hard times, bury them in fines, then force sales. It's a business model. Can they even do this legally? I asked. They make it look legal. They've got county inspectors, code enforcement, even zoning officials in their pocket. Once they mark you as vulnerable, they'll keep pushing until you crack. He wasn't exaggerating. Within 48 hours, I had 3 official notices nailed to my door. The health department claimed my well water was contaminated. Code enforcement flagged my porch as unsafe. Zoning officers declared my shed an unauthorized structure. Each violation came with fees I couldn't pay. Each document bore Seabreeze's logo alongside county seals. I tried calling the agencies, but every line routed me back to partnership liaisons who parroted the same script. Compliance required, deadlines fixed. I felt like a rabbit surrounded by hounds. And then came the call I dreaded. My ex-wife, Claire. Her voice was syrupy with false concern. I heard you're in trouble with your property. Maybe we should talk. I knew better. Claire didn't do sympathy. She did leverage. We met at a cafe by the pier, where she sipped her latte like she hadn't bled me dry in court. I cut straight to it. How do you know about the HOA? She shifted in her seat, eyes darting. They approached me during the divorce, offered consultation services about maximizing property value, said this land was prime for redevelopment. I thought it was harmless. Harmless. My stomach twisted. She'd given them everything. Financials, habits, vulnerabilities. I realized then that I'd been under a microscope for months. When I confronted Amanda later at a diner, her polished mask cracked. She insisted they were offering strategic property value enhancement for the community. But when I pressed, desperation seeped through. I have quotas, she muttered. If I fail, I lose my health insurance. My son needs surgery. You think I enjoy this? For a moment, I saw her not as a villain, but as another pawn. Yet her fear didn't excuse the wreckage she caused. Still, she slipped. She mentioned Regional Director Hayes, approving every protocol. That gave me a name. I demanded a meeting. The office building where Hayes worked gleamed with glass walls and marble floors. Inside, awards lined the walls, photographs of her shaking hands with county commissioners. She greeted me with the confidence of someone untouchable. "Mr. Carter," she said smoothly, "your resistance is regrettable. Seabreeze HOA ensures community standards. Our partnerships with local agencies are entirely legitimate." "You're running a racket," I shot back. "You're stealing homes." She tilted her head, lips curving into a faint smile. "We prefer the term property optimization. Underperforming assets are transitioned for the greater good. You're free to cooperate or endure regulatory consequences until you comply." The arrogance in her voice stoked something in me. But then she admitted something almost casually. "Our surveys rely on current documentation. Historical records are irrelevant." That one line lodged in my mind like a spark waiting to ignite. I dove into county archives, poring over maps and deeds from the 1800s. After days of searching, I found them, original boundary markers proving my land stretched far beyond the cottage. In fact, part of the commercial strip, including the HOA's own office, sat on my ground lease. Ethan helped me verify the documents. "If this holds, Carter, they built their empire on your property." The chance for exposure came faster than I expected. The HOA announced a live-streamed transparency meeting to reassure residents. I joined the broadcast, camera square on my face, folder of evidence in hand. Before Amanda could launch into her scripted speech, I held up the survey maps. "Before we talk about fines, let's talk about land ownership," I said. "Because this building you're sitting in, it's on my property." The chat feed exploded. Dozens of neighbors demanded answers. Who gave the HOA authority? Who voted for them? Amanda's composure shattered. "That's impossible," she shouted, lunging for the camera. "Our legal team verified everything." The meltdown spread across social media in minutes. Clips of Amanda's panic went viral, captions accusing Seabreeze HOA of squatting on stolen land. By the time Hayes stormed onto the stream, the narrative was out of her hands. Neighbors from other communities chimed in with their own stories of harassment. The facade was cracking. The county could no longer ignore it. A fire safety hearing was called to review the HOA's occupancy. I sat in the chamber, heart pounding, as the county surveyor confirmed my documents. "Mr. Carter's property boundaries include the structure currently occupied by Seabreeze HOA," he announced. "This constitutes unauthorized use." Hayes' calm finally fractured. "This is absurd," she cried. Our due diligence was exhaustive. Meanwhile, Amanda lost control completely, screaming about quotas and her son's medical bills, clawing at my papers before security restrained her. The officials ordered immediate evacuation of the HOA office. Employees panicked, realizing their jobs and reputations were sinking. Hayes tried to distance herself, labeling Amanda unstable, but Amanda shouted back, "You made me do this. You promised it was legal." Her desperate accusations opened the floodgates. She handed over internal emails, fee ledgers, memos proving systematic fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. County prosecutors moved in, freezing accounts and preparing charges. Arbitration sealed their fate. Hayes sat with her lawyers, spinning excuses about county record errors, while Amanda, hollow-eyed, testified against her. "Every order came from Hayes," she said softly. "Every harassment campaign was approved at the top." The arbitrator's ruling was devastating. Seabreeze HOA guilty of fraud, conspiracy, and systematic harassment. Assets were seized, the corporation dissolved, and restitution funds established for victims. Hayes was sentenced to 4 years in prison, stripped of her licenses, her career in ruins. Amanda served a shorter term but emerged broken, working with advocacy groups to warn others about predatory HOAs. My cottage, once on the brink of being stolen, became a symbol of resistance. The compensation fund repaired homes, paid debts, and offered legal aid to those crushed by similar schemes. 3 years later, Seabreeze was a memory, but its shadow lingered. Reform laws were passed, mandatory transparency, audits, restrictions on HOA power. Communities organized councils to guard against future abuse. And me? I stayed in my cottage, the ocean pounding outside my window, the air sharp with salt and freedom. Sometimes, I still see Amanda's face in my mind, the moment she realized her corporate armor couldn't protect her. I don't forgive her, But I understand. Desperation makes monsters of us all. Hayes was different. Cold, deliberate, predatory. She built a machine designed to crush families like mine, and she paid the price. Justice didn't come easily, and it didn't erase the fear those months carved into me. But it taught me that power can be broken, even when it hides behind polished glass and corporate jargon. You just have to find the crack in the armor and pry until the whole thing shatters.